Hello, everybody. Back for another week of the Derek and Laura podcast from Compass and Anchor Fitness and Performance. I hope you've enjoyed the previous sessions, and we're constantly coming up with new topics, and we'd love to hear from you if you have any topics in mind that you'd like us to kind of dive into. But today I kind of had the idea of, or something Derek and I have really been talking about, is the idea of setting goals, and how this can kind of set you up for being motivated right at the beginning, and then somehow we keep setting goals and setting goals and setting goals, but not really achieving them, or achieving them to the best of our ability. And it kind of boils down to having strategies in place and understanding how you're going to achieve those goals. So I know Derek has some opinions on this, and I think in the fitness, he always has opinions, but I think in the fitness industry, in the wellness space, you know, I could even broaden it out to there, it's even more important, where a lot of people have goals, whether it's weight loss goals or strength goals, but no idea and or no plan in place of how to get there. Is that kind of fair to say, Derek?
Yeah, I think so. I think when it comes to goals overall, I have like a pretty polarizing opinion on goals. And I think of goals in the same way I think of motivation. And if you're like constantly seeking motivation, or you're constantly seeking goals, but that's where the buck stops, kind of, if you will.
Happiness too.
Yeah, happiness, like, you know, any of those things, right?
I hate that. Like, let me find happiness.
Let me just find that thing. Like,
if only this happens, I'll be happy.
There's no plan. That's not, like, that doesn't make any sense. If your thing is every January, you know, the new year, you know, I'm gonna have goals, I'm gonna set a resolution, you know, I take it to that degree because, you know, going to the extreme is a really good way to understand it. If you're that person, you're like, I set a New Year's resolution. Well, that's just a goal, right? That's just a really huge,
which is great to have.
Cool. Yeah.
Like, if you know,
it's definitely, like, goals are good things. Don't get me wrong. I love goals, but like, if you're a person who that's it, then goals are useless to you. Goals are like motivation. If you just wait for motivation to come around, right, then you're gonna be waiting for a long time. If you just are waiting for, you know, okay, I have this goal and that's it, like your focus is on the goal, but you don't have a strategy or you don't have a plan, then the goal is useless to you. It doesn't make any sense anymore. So what are you doing? So my whole thing is goals are just like motivation in that they are a spark. They should get you going, and they should point you in a direction. But once you establish that, like, hey, this is my goal. My goal is to, for the sake of keeping it simple, my goal is to lose 10 pounds. Great. What are you going to do to lose 10 pounds now?
Right.
Once you establish this goal, the goal goes away. You don't think about the goal anymore because it no longer does anything for you other than provide maybe a little bit, you know, of more diluted motivation.
Well, it seems to be the foundation of a way to build different habits, right? So you
Hopefully.
So you have a goal if you think that way. If you say, I have a goal, now these are the steps that I'm going to take to get there. And it reminds me of, obviously, SMART goals. You know, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And you have to set, is it an attainable goal? And really being realistic with yourself, and then setting up the strategies and the changes that you're actually going to make to achieve that goal. Because it's not just going to magically happen because you wrote it down or spoke it into the universe.
Certainly. You know, people would love to think that. You know, my biggest thing is, like, do people do SMART goals? You hear people throw it around all the time. You know, I love SMART goals, but I can't tell you one time I've ever done a SMART goal.
No, because I think it's something that takes time to actually think about.
Exactly. And
you have to think about goals objectively like that. And I don't think a lot of people do. They speak it out into the world, and they're like, this is my goal. I really want to lose 10 pounds. I'm like, okay, great. You know, I've done nutrition counseling. What are you going to do to get there? Do you really want to give up your daily extra light, extra sweet Dunkin' Donuts coffee?
Sure.
You know, how many calories is that adding every week to your diet? If you're not going to give it up, then, you know, we can look at other places to take it away, to take calories away. But how willing are you to do the steps that it takes Or are you just speaking and saying, I really want to achieve this goal?
Unwilling.
A lot of people are.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of where I get annoyed with goals overall, because I focus a lot more with, my people, with my clients, with my staff, on developing habits that are going to support like strong lifestyles, right? For me, a system is great. In when it comes to programming, for example, programming is a really great example of this, because when you program nutrition, when you program specifically an exercise program for someone over the course, let's call it over the course of 12 months, right? You talk about their goal maybe 4 times.
I was going to say the goal changes.
It's going to change because you're going to change.
Right.
But realistically, the goal just provides direction.
Right.
I'm going to work backwards. I'm going to establish a system when programming of, okay, let's pretend you're already there. How'd we get there?
Right.
What did we do to get there? And it's not going to be like lift heavy weights. Like that doesn't, yes. We have to get specific though.
Right.
What does each week look like?
Right.
How much time do you have? And all of those things can be really, really overwhelming for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't harp so aggressively on systems, because systems are awesome, but I really think to be objective, you should have a coach. You should have a coach to develop systems with you.
Right.
But you should look at the broad scope and say, okay, what habits can I start to kind of exemplify that are going to best support this new lifestyle, this thing? And what I mean by that is, say you're like, I need to lose 10 pounds. Well, cool. Let's talk about like some really generic things that you can do to lose 10 pounds. You don't need a coach for this, right? You should start working out.
Right.
You should start eating better, right? You should start sleeping better, all right? So those are all good things. Well, that's really easy to say, but it's not actionable at all.
Right. I was going to say, what does that mean?
Exactly. It doesn't mean anything.
Everybody knows, I should work out and I should eat better.
Exactly. You can look that up on Google, right? It's the simplest thing ever. Like, well, no shit.
Right.
So what makes it actionable is the little habits that seemingly have nothing to do with the actual action.
Right.
So if you need to start working out, well, like, you're a busy person. You have a job, maybe you have kids, maybe you have a spouse or a significant other, and like, you owe them, and you dedicate time to them. You've got stuff going on in your life. So what you need to do is become more efficient, and you need to make small, simple changes in your day-to-day routine that are going to support this greater like goal, quote unquote, right, at hand. And some examples for me are things like, okay, before you go to bed at night, how easy is it to put your clothes out the night before? Mm-hmm. That's hugely actionable. Hugely, I sound like Trump. It's incredibly actionable.
Yeah.
All right. How easy is it to have your workout shoes next to your bed?
Right.
How easy is it to have your bag packed? Well, those are all very simple things, right? You just do it ahead of time. Next would be, maybe you're going to have a protein shake in the morning. How easy is it to have that prepped beforehand and in the fridge for you? How easy it is to have your food put into containers, the night before, and put it in your fridge. These are all little things that when you wake up in the morning, it's all about eliminating barriers.
Right.
The barrier to entry for lifestyle change is doing the extra shit.
Yeah.
Right? And the extra stuff is, I gotta wake up and I'm tired, and then I gotta go find clothes, and my wife or my husband is pissed off because now I got my phone, my flashlight is on my phone, and I'm flashing it in her eyes or their eyes, and I'm looking for shoes and I can't find socks, and now I got my pants on backwards, or like if you're me, they're on inside out. Like, it's a thing that you have to deal with that now takes more time. And in your mind, you had this, delusion of grandeur of how this was going to go because goals motivated the shit out of you for like 2 days. And then when it didn't go that way...
Now you don't want to do it anymore.
You don't want to do that shit anymore. It sucks.
You're done.
So that's why I hate goals, because they create this like fake nonsense like delusion.
Yeah, but it also
of what
is
it's
a
gonna
temporary thing, right? So
Super
if you
temporary.
say that you're gonna like achieve this goal, you're gung ho and like, oh my god, I'm like resolutions. I'm going to the gym. I wait, every year. It's like just wait till February. The gyms will, it'll be like much
just
better
wait. I
because
love
everybody's
that.
gone again. The people who actually aren't consistent with these things, and I think a lot of this is psychological too. If you're not ready or willing, and you're just saying, this should be my goal. I've had this goal forever. It's about time I do it. But you're not taking the steps that mean something to you that you're willing to do. Are you willing to, if you see it as a sacrifice, it's not going to work, right? Like if you see it as like, or as like something that, like, oh my god, now I have to pack my bag and now I have to do this. And it's like,
You get to do those
you're
things.
yeah, you're pissed about it. You're not going to stay consistent with it. The other thing is like those small things, maybe you don't even get to the gym that morning, but you've prepared yourself for it. You know, there are small steps that are not failures. They're just wins that get you closer to the lifestyle change. As
Absolutely.
I see it, like we can set a goal, but if you're not willing to make those changes, then what is, and at the end of the day, I always forget about my goal at the end of the day. It's like if you set a goal, it's like, okay, in a couple weeks time, once you've developed those lifestyle habits, your goal might just go away because you're enjoying the changes that you're making, or your goal changes. If I'm going to the gym twice a week, maybe I love it and now I want it to be 3 times a week, but I don't see it as a goal. It's more of I'm willing to do it because I like it.
Absolutely. I read this book pretty recently by this incredible author. His name is James Clear. And if you haven't heard of him or read his book Atomic Habits yet, I highly, highly recommend it. And some of the things he talks about are incredibly intuitive, but he has this way of explaining it where you just want to slap yourself. You're just like, of course, James, of course you know exactly what I'm thinking. And some of the things that he talks about, and, kind of, I don't know if this was his intention, but this is certainly what happened. Some of the things he talks about are why I dislike goals so much, because realistically, your only goal should be to determine, what it is that you want or need,
Right.
and then commit to, your goal should be committing to the habits that are going to just put you in the best possible position every week.
Right. If you want to use the word goal, use it in that context.
Certainly. If you're looking at something and you're like, I do nutrition coaching all the time, and once you break the math down for people every single time get very sad because they don't want to hear that it's going to take me 52 weeks to lose 52 pounds.
Yep.
But that's the average. That's what's healthy, right? A pound a
for
week is
sustainable
healthy.
change.
For sustainable change. Nobody wants to hear 52 weeks.
Right.
So if you want to help them, saying that it's going to take 52 weeks is a great way to lose them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that.
Yeah.
But that's not what they think about. They want to lose 52 pounds. Well, I want you to lose a pound. And then next week I want you to lose another pound. And in terms of the way goals or habits or strategies or whatever you want to call them at this point, all that matters is that you remain consistent in terms of what habits are necessary for you to be successful for a given action.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
In choosing, a goal that is going to take you a year and that you're motivated about for, say, you're really awesome about motivation and you're motivated for a whole week. It's only 51 more of
Right.
those. And that's impossible. It doesn't make sense to sustain that type of attitude that is going to kind of bridge the gap, if you will. It's going to push you forward to continue this chase. Motivation and goals, in my opinion, they're the same thing, and it's garbage.
Yeah.
It's all about how can I get myself out of this emotional thought process that has me, creating this delusion of grandeur that is goals, And how can I get down to the very rational, very logical state that I need to be in order to make real decisions?
Well, I think a lot of it is tied to emotions too, right? Like if you're feeling super motivated and like gung ho, you're going to be taking those steps to make change, to set those goals, to set whatever habits changes. Then you have something that throws you off, you get stressed, you get upset, you get disappointed, and it's so easy to go right back into old habits, which is why I think it's all habits.
And then you failed.
Right. And then you can't get yourself back into the routine, right?
Absolutely.
So, it took a long time for me. I was like set on, I want to look this way or I want to whatever. And then I just started to decide that fitness was a way of living, and you're going to do it or you're not going to do it, right? So on days that I feel like crap, it's still part of my morning routine that can even get me out of that emotional, feeling. And when I feel good, I still do it, So it's a routine that you get yourself into, and you start to just build the self-confidence that comes with it too.
Sure.
To even start to think about, is my goal realistic, or is my, strategy to get there actually what I want to be working towards?
Sure. One of the things I wanted to really kind of touch on here was I don't want to put it entirely on the person whom is setting the goal, right? Because we're talking about being emotional versus being logical, but we all know that there are people who respond to things, much more quickly than others. Some people who respond to things much more emotionally to things than others. And I think what a pretty big and important ask for that person would be to identify that aspect of themselves. If that's who you are as a person, that doesn't make you a bad person,
right,
and it doesn't make you wrong, but it is a part of who you are, right? It's a consistent behavior, not to get super meta on anybody here, but it is a consistency of behavior, and identifying that about yourself is really, really important, because you're a really good candidate for finding a coach. Because when you're being logical, when you're being rational, that's a good time to reach out for help and say, hey, this isn't something that comes naturally to me. These are the things I want, or these are the things I need. However, this is what's getting in my way. I have a really difficult time, not being super emotional about this. And I get it. Most of the people who I work with are like this.
Right, and you also might need a coach to help you identify that stuff. You might
Certainly.
come to a coach and just say, I'm trying to do this and I don't know why I can't get there. So
Certainly.
I need your help, and they'll help you identify those barriers.
Certainly. That's a huge aspect of understanding, yourself, or if you're a coach, the person you're working with, that, if you're a person who often experiences failure because you're trying things very consistently over and over and over again, it could be that, you're just taking things in too big of chunks.
Right.
You're overcomplicating something that, if you're being really rational, it's overly simple. It should be overly simple. So that's a big thing to consider. And I'm not trying to offend anyone's journey or anything like that. I'm just trying to kind of draw a parallel to, if you look at something as simple as losing 10 pounds, and you can get really mad at me and be like, some people just can't do it. And I get it that you might think that. However, reducing fat is in theory the most simple thing in the entire world, mathematically speaking.
Right.
It's very simple. The parts of it that are hard are the variables that can't be controlled as easy, which is the consciousness of people and the emotions of people. But that's where coaching comes in, is you have to be really objective, especially when you in particular suffer, quote unquote, more than anyone else.
Right. Well, I think with coaching, it becomes, what are you as the client willing to do?
Certainly.
Right? Like, if you're not willing to change, I'll go back to the coffee thing. If you're not willing to change that, are you willing to add more vegetables to this meal and take, and drink more water throughout the day?
Certainly.
Those are still habits that you can build that will then build your confidence that you have now achieved these quote unquote smaller goals of building the habit of drinking more water and
Certainly.
having more vegetables at dinner, right? So then you can say, oh, I feel better now that I'm drinking more water. What can I do next?
Absolutely.
And it becomes something that now you're being proactive about instead of somebody telling you what the changes are to make.
Sure.
Right?
It's just part of life now.
Right.
Not now there's less to do.
Yeah, but also you kind of tackle the emotional side too, because it's now an innate thing. It's something that's coming from me that I want to change these things. It's like, I used to work at a diabetes company, and we did exercise for people with diabetes, and we focused on the exercise. I said, all I'm asking you to do is add exercise, because a lot of people have trouble with taking things away from themselves, right? So we said, okay, all I'm asking you to do is add this exercise, even if it's a walk every day or 3 times a week. Inherently, people started feeling better when they added exercise, that they were then coming to me and saying, what can I do to change my diet? And that's how you would want it to happen, where then you start to build these small habits and say, okay, this is great. Let's look at what you're eating now and what are you willing to change? Let's try these small things first and see how they go.
Well, what that is, which brings me to probably the most important point that I have on why I hate goals so much. What that brings me to is that is an excellent example of a small victory.
Yep.
What it comes down to is people don't want to feel restricted.
No.
They also don't want to feel like shit.
Right.
They don't want to feel like they've lost. People like to win things.
Right.
Very surprising.
Right.
People like to win. I know that's weird. So, knowing that's the case, knowing people enjoy victory, I've got to tell you, people have an insatiable appetite for victory. It doesn't matter how big or small. Wins are wins. People love W's.
Right.
Right? And what it comes down to is, if you can give people enough small victories, it looks like a big-ass victory.
Especially if it relates to how they feel and they can
Certainly.
Tangibly be like,
Yes.
oh my God, look at what's happening.
Which is, if you look at it, so let's look at this in reverse. This is the reason why setting a big, lofty, aggressive goal like that,
Yeah.
when you're not a planner, when you're not an experienced person in that particular area, this is why it's a bad idea. Give yourself the opportunity to earn a bunch of successive victories, right? A bunch of victories in a row will give you this feeling of accomplishment. It'll drive you forward. It'll fuel the next victory.
Right.
I love the idea of you subtract through addition. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to give up alcohol. I don't want to give up cake, or I don't know, what is it that people like to do, things like that. I like muffins. Maybe it's muffins. Instead of giving those things up,
Yeah.
how about we add to your day? Can we add to your day? Can we add something small? Well, I don't know. I don't have a lot of time. Do you have 1 minute?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Before you go to bed, I want you to take 1 minute, 60 seconds, and I want you to make a protein shake and put it in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Can you do that? It's water and protein powder. I literally need you to put water into a cup, put a scoop of protein powder in it, and then put that into the fridge. Can you do that? Okay, that's awesome. Can you take another minute tomorrow? Possibly? Cool. I want you to drink that shake when you wake up. Can you do that? I'm not going to take anything away from you. I just want you to do one thing one day and one thing the next day.
Even while you drive.
I don't care. I don't care how you do it.
Just
drink
ingest it.
Just drink it.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. Take the minute.
Yes.
Take the 60 seconds it's going to take to add this small thing to your day. All right? Now, what's ended up happening is you've taken in 30 more grams of protein. Do the math. 30 grams by 4 calories per gram, okay? We've got a good bit of calories, a little bit more, okay? So it's going to satiate you a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe now you don't want as much as you did before. We've effectively added something without subtracting anything, right? So we've subtracted through addition.
Right. So psychologically, you can still, quote unquote, have the muffin, but it's more, how do you feel in this moment? Do you want the entire thing, or
Absolutely.
do you want it, right? And then you start to feel that change, and it's not that we've said you can't have it.
Exactly.
Because then you want it more.
Exactly. and this is why habits are so much more important to identify and then execute on consistently over coming up with goals. We have this crazy, society-driven, thought process that you have to have these goals. And that,
you
that's
have
cool.
to be successful,
You
right?
have to be successful. At what?
But
what are we successful at?
Yeah, but what makes a habit not successful?
Exactly.
That's my question.
At the end of the day, they're just words.
Yeah, but habits are much more sustainable towards, again, more sustainable success.
My goal is to have better habits.
Right, yeah. That's how we should end. That's literally how we should end. Your goal should be to have better habits.
But that's what I'm getting at, is that at the end of the day, these are just buzzwords.
Yeah.
And, just like anything in life, thoughts without action, they're nothing. And if you can't find a way to create some sort of tangibility to what it is you want, whether it's goals, whether it's strategies, whether it's habits, as far as I'm concerned, they're all the same.
Yeah.
But if there is no tangibility to it, there is no change. The tangibility needs to be something that you do each day that you can measure. Did you do it?
Right.
Yes or no?
Simple.
If you didn't do it,
Why
maybe
not?
you should do it, and then you'll be more successful.
Right.
Is the thing that you did or didn't do, is it good for you? If you're not doing that thing, if it's not good for you, whatever the case is, then change it to something that you can or will do. That's the measurement aspect of this.
Yeah, I think so much of it becomes we're so automatic with our actions that it takes a certain level of awareness too. Like I was just thinking about how I used to journal in the morning, and then I all of a sudden got into, again, a habit of picking up my phone in the morning instead. So I had to consciously say, I've noticed that I've changed this, and do I want to change it back? Yes or no? The answer was yes. And then, okay, how do I change it back? And you have to be willing, okay, my phone doesn't get picked up, and I have to then pick up the journal again. But it's a conscious thing that you have to be aware enough to be doing these things.
Sure.
You have to be aware enough that, okay, remind myself I wanted to make that protein shake. I'm going to set aside, before I go to bed, I have 60 seconds that I'm going to scoop protein powder into a shaker or whatever you have, and put some water. Even if you don't put water, put the scoop in there and add the water in the morning.
Certainly.
All of those things. Just, you have to be aware enough to be able to make those changes and start to develop those habits.
Certainly. And you know what? Because to stick with the theme of me being just a little bit combative, I would say that stop making excuses.
Yeah.
Why didn't you do that? Well, I couldn't get 30 minutes in of journaling. So get in 10.
Right.
Why?
It doesn't
what
have
does
to
that,
be 30.
What does that even mean?
Right.
You just didn't do it. So you took a loss instead of taking a partial win.
Right.
It's about consistently doing this thing. It's about this habit. I could talk forever about the psychology of this and how people think and how to create sensations and feelings of positivity around actions. Like it's called anchoring. I could talk literally forever about it. But the point is, stop making excuses for yourself. Get out of your own way.
Well, you're neglecting yourself. You're not taking care of yourself at the end of the day.
The problem is you don't care.
Right.
The problem is you don't care. And as soon as you decide you don't care enough to do even a piece of it, then it's over.
Right.
And that's why goals are shit.
Right. Another way to end.
How about an ending? So the point is, guys, for me, it's all language, right? And if it's all language, then you can change it. You can change the language. You can change what the language means to you. You can change anything about it. You just need to take the wins. You need to find a way to compile wins. If you can't do all of it, do some of it until it's just what you do. I have something that I say to a lot of my clients all the time, and there's two types of people in the world as far as who's successful and who isn't successful. People who are not successful are constantly talking about the things that they should do. They're constantly talking about the things they need to do. People who are successful don't even think about it. Mm-hmm. They just do it. Stop talking about it. Stop making excuses for yourself. If you can't do all of it, do some of it. Yep. You're the only person who has to live in that body. You're the only person who has to deal with the repercussions of your actions. So do it. That's it. That's my sign off.
Well, there you have it, folks. Let us know what you think about this. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear how you have built strategies and habits for yourself as well. And if you're looking for a coach to help you set these small goals, set these small habits, reach out to Derek and see, he's more than willing to help. So again, we'd love to hear.
And much nicer in person.
Yes, he is. He is much nicer in person. And it could be much more personalized to you, which is the benefit of it. So again, please let us know how you feel about this, and let us know if there are other topics that you'd like us to touch on. And with that, we're signing off.
Hey guys, we're here at Compass and Anchor Fitness and Performance. I'm Derek. That's Laura.
Yep.
We're out of here.